Lifehack Advisors Podcast Roundtable Episode 1. I am Marcus.
Mike. John.
Stevie P in the place to be, aka Planet Earth.
The purpose of these roundtable episodes is to cross-pollinate ideas, hacks, information, and knowledge we come across over the past few weeks or whatever the time passes between we get together with like-minded and curious listeners. So there's really no rules with this, just some guidance, and we're going to be mixing out along the journey. I guess let's start with the first question as the purpose of the podcast and video. Over the past week, gents, what are the most interesting life hacks you learned or came across, whether that be fact, story, book, blog, something valuable you learned from a podcast? And just stepping back, that's sort of how we decided to start doing this, because we're all off on our own little hack and learning tangents. So we thought it would be interesting for each other and others to share those random learnings and hacks. John Boy, you got something?
Well, I don't know about the whole hack thing, but lately I've been going on a wellness binge with, being in the whole fitness industry and all the
seems appropriate
poppy talk they kind of throw our way, trying to shove down our throat these health tips and
propaganda.
And
you mean I don't have to join a gym to be healthy?
No, you don't. Actually, if you just go outside in the woods, like we did this past weekend, and chop a freaking tree down. Wow, what a workout that was! Trudging through the snow, carrying
not
ass.
An official recommendation.
It was a dead tree. No live trees were harmed in this.
It was a nature preserve.
You should probably leave that part. The state of Maine is now after us. But no, I was listening to Underground Wellness, and it's an older one, but the one I listened to that really stuck out with me was Jack Tipp's 5 Steps to Permanent Gut Healing, and it was all about how to better your microbiome for an overall better life, and how in fluctuation of bad and good bacteria can be the difference between, having a happy, normal life or leading a life full of anxiety and depression, or, having this disease that your doctor's treating, even though all they're actually treating is a symptom and not the cause. Yeah. So that really stuck out with me, and how we've gone a long way from when Hippocrates said all diseases started in your gut. Well, we knew a lot more back then than apparently we know now, because we don't really seem to...
So, sorry to jump in, but have you heard about these fecal transplants?
I did. They actually talked about it in that, and they're joking around the whole time, like, oh, I'm going to start saving my shit in the freezer to make
it sounds gross, but apparently they're getting, great results.
Oh, yeah, this is what I've heard.
You do have fecal banks.
Yep,
but it is kind of sketchy. Like, I remember Tim Ferriss was discussing this, and, he's like, yeah, it's showing promising benefits, but I'm going to hold off because who knows, what could randomly happen, or if you could get something that hasn't been identified yet.
Yeah.
So I'd consider it still in beta. Right?
Well, that's for sure, but actually it's Tim Ferriss's most recent podcasts were on this topic.
I did check that one out too. It was good.
The factoid from that, I already hit you guys up with what percentage of you is actually human? Do you know?
Oh man.
Oh yeah, and everyone's recently been saying only 20% of you is human.
Yeah, I guess somebody fact checked it heavily and it's 50%.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's closer to 50.
But just for listeners' benefit and Stevie P's, it's Sean Croxton.
Yeah.
Underground Wellness Radio.
And they're talking about how when they were doing the Human Genome Project, how they really didn't learn anything from all the effort they put into it. But now, because of these microbiomes and how much they influence our everyday lives, they're starting to include this in the Human Genome Project, because they're saying it leads us from everything to, who we fall in love with, to what foods we decide to eat, because these play such a huge role in our lives and we just don't understand it yet. And they're calling it the new human organ.
Also, mood.
Yeah.
I was surprised how much they say it impacts your mood.
Yeah, especially fungus impacts the mood like crazy with depression and anxiety and all that. It really affects that. So once you get rid of the fungus, optimize the microbiome.
Which I was listening to another one today. Yet again, Underground Wellness.
Hold on. What's going on?
Hey, camera.
No, it's
Oh,
still on.
okay, good.
Yep.
Screensaver alert. And he has
technical difficulties.
And speaking of the fungus, I was listening to another one, Underground Wellness today with Sean Croxton, and he was interviewing Dr. Amy Myers, and she just had, or she's having a book come out called Autoimmune Solution, and it covers all that, how just our natural, like the toxins in our air, the toxins we're exposed to every day, or expose ourselves to, I should say, how they really just are ravaging us, and how a simple fix is, changing your diet.
You know, what'd be interesting is to see how cancer rates, like various types of cancer rates, have changed over time. Because I bet like a significant number have gone up, even though we've got all these advances.
Oh, I bet. And and
Cancer, this is where you get into fungus. Like cancer is basically a fungus that feeds off sugar. Look at the American diet.
cut the sugar out.
I know from people that I know that have had cancer, when they're trying to detect it, actually what you ingest is like a sugar drink, and it makes the cancer light up.
Really?
It's like yeah, Marty, they can detect where it is.
I just cut 10 years off your life trying to find it.
But there's a lot. CBP, you got anything on cancer and fungus and diet?
Yeah, a lot of people discuss the link between cancer and fungus, which is like really on point in my opinion. One great resource is Doug Kaufman. He wrote the book called The Fungus Link, which he attributes most chronic diseases to the overgrowth of Candida fungus. And that is a really good book with so much good information. And you're able to connect so many dots with it about how everything relates to fungus.
And I think it's about a 3-month and a 6-month diet you can go on basically to really clear yourself.
Yeah,
right?
I think he calls it is it level 1? Something like level 1, where you go on this diet to eliminate the fungus growth in your body, to kill it off. So it basically cuts out a lot of wheat, processed food, sugar, all that kind of stuff.
You know, it's funny. I think, like, we're just in my yard, you've been around. There's a few trees where I'm like looking at them, like, I think you said that one doesn't. It's like fungus. You can see it like when you're out. It's like, man,
It just doesn't look right.
It's a parasite. It uses us as a host. It's a parasite. So it's like
not a good one, like the microbiome, all those other hosts. Because they're all living off us too. Right?
Well, the microbiome, the bad bacteria plays its role anyways. It plays no role for us.
But parasites are something that lives off of another living thing while just using it, not providing any benefits.
It's like, what is it, those wasps that like lay their eggs in an insect and like controls them until they burst open. It's like a little worker bee for
Yeah.
This reminds me of a podcast I listened to a couple days ago. It was Kiefer, the Carb Back Loading guy.
Mm.
He's got a podcast called.
Wait, there's a guy named Kiefer?
Yeah. Well, his name's John Kiefer, but he goes by Kiefer. And the dude is really on point with health and fitness and nutrition. And he hypothesizes that all chronic diseases are the result, like especially cancer, a result of metabolic dysfunction. Which I don't know how it interrelates with the fungus. They could go hand in hand, but he says like the overconsumption of carbohydrates and sugars constantly, it obviously fucks up your insulin levels, makes that dysfunctional. You become insulin resistant, and metabolically you become just deranged. And because you're so metabolically deranged, that causes a lot of the cellular dysfunction as well. That's what
you should start describing yourself that way.
That's what
I'm Steve. I'm metabolically deranged.
I was back in the day when I was eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch for breakfast. 2 bowls a day when I was a kid. Yeah.
We call that vacation cereal in my house.
I wish that was vacation cereal, because that literally changed the way I dealt with insulin and carbohydrates. It like changed my epigenetic expression as a kid. Eating that stuff all the time, and I'm finally correcting it.
Now we're diving deep.
Epigenetics. Epigenetics is where it gets crazy, and Also, that guy Kiefer also talks about that what you eat and what you're exposed to as a kid affects your gene expression throughout your life.
I've also heard with a pregnant mother, that also determines, you know, for infant, kind of fucking your kid up at that point.
Yeah. Well, just like this whole fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, there were some interviews Tim Ferriss did on that. It's like 40 million Americans have it now. Adults and kids, it's like the #1 epidemic. And it's all because
high
of
fructose corn syrup.
sugar and high fructose in kids. There's like babies being born with like livers like hardcore alcoholics. So
That's another thing,
just
because fructose can only be processed and stored as glycogen in the liver. And the liver's capacity for glycogen storage and processing is like so small, while glucose could be stored in the muscle as glycogen. So if you're having high fructose corn syrup, that's literally assaulting your liver.
Yeah.
Plus all the rampant alcoholism.
Well, that was a depressing thing, working with John on strength training this week. That depressed me. You want to share your psychologist fact about drinking?
Oh, so I'm a personal trainer for you guys who don't know. I love the job and the fact that it opens me up to all sorts of people with all sorts of ideas that normally I would never really have the chance to meet or entertain their thoughts. And one of my clients is a psychiatrist. He does, marriage counseling and all that stuff. And take it, the guy's divorced himself. But we're talking. Yeah, right. They have the worst problems. But anyways, so we're doing squats, and I'm just telling him about my weekend, his weekend. Just doing like the polite pleasantries and. I was telling
this guy Marcus's house.
Yeah, I was this doucher over here. 20 bottles of wine later one night, and other things.
Not 20.
It wasn't quite 20, but we crushed some wine. I think even some bubbly was brought over. Right. Anywho, so the next day you have your typical hangover, whatever.
There's ways around that.
There are.
We do not have the NAC.
So our way of curing it was just to get out into nature. We chopped a tree down, we hiked a little, and felt great after. But the next day, I was just groggy. The past couple days, actually, or the first couple days, I should say, of the week, I was groggy, just kind of dragging ass compared to where I was last week, which I was kind of on cloud 9. It was almost, like a natural high. It was just euphoric all week. And I was talking about how I was dragging ass, and he was telling me how, alcohol alters your brain waves and it affects your sleep, which I knew it affected your sleep when you were drinking. Shortens your sleep cycles. You don't always get quite to that REM sleep you want, so that's why usually when you wake up after a shortened period of sleep anyways, you're not rested. But he was telling me that it actually alters your brain waves up to 72 hours. So even though you haven't been drinking, you're still suffering the effects of the alcohol up to 72 hours later. And I mean, really, for a night of fun, 3 days of non-productivity is really it's a hindrance.
Well, and there's also what I told you about. I read a study years ago that says it actually proven the beer goggle effect. And it actually lasts beyond 24 hours. So the next morning when you wake up with that under your arm.
Well, if it wasn't for beer goggles, my sex life would be non-existent. So
I was going to say, I think I may have some anecdotal contradictory evidence to that.
Oh my God! Exactly. So.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I've written down, on Evernote, that 48 hours after I drink, my creativity and just the way my brain and consciousness functions is decreased.
Yep.
So I noted that down in 2012, I think. Yeah.
That was a while ago.
He's forgot ever since.